Okay, we will reconvene into open session at 7:55. Oh, 6:55, sorry. Is it 5:55? Sorry, I'm 2 hours ahead of time. I'm tired. 5:55. There is no action to report that was taken at closed session. So we will move on to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, so comment section. We'll start with comments and announcement by the board members. Jessica, do you have any comments or announcements?
A little less school related. However, I was able to attend the Chinese New Year celebration at the Chinese temple. And they had some really cool dragon dancers and drums, and there was all of the museums were open, and there was a lot of people there, and we were able to go in and see all of the history and the beautiful display of the Chinese culture that has been in this town since its inception. And I just thought that was really neat, and I'm really glad to see that that cultural representation is here and open again for everybody to go see. And I really want to encourage anybody who can go to take a look. It's really neat.
Great. Thank you for sharing. Lisa, do you have any announcements or comments?
No, actually, I've just been really busy with my daughter's gymnastics. So, but her competition's coming to a close here in a couple of months. So I'll be able to get back into stuff around here.
Great.
Thank you.
And Sandra, do you have any comments or announcements?
Nothing for me, thanks.
And I have no comments or announcements. Dr. Holton.
I just have a couple of announcements. One, kind of going off of what Jessica was sharing about the Chinese New Year and some of the culture that we have. At a couple weeks ago, our Central Middle School had a Hmong and Chinese, and share with me, Janet, what?
It was a Hmong day.
Yeah, a Hmong day. And I was able to attend and go through several classes, and all the classes were engaged in cultural events. A lot of our Hmong kids were in native dress, and it was really a cool thing and kind of our kickoff for some of our VAPA work, which is the visual and performing arts work that we're going to start to undertake there. And so it was really a great thing. I also wanted to make a comment tonight. I sent out a message to all our parents in the district today about the masking. Yesterday, the state of California dropped the mask mandate for businesses and things of that nature, but they did not drop the mandate for masks to be in our schools while indoors. Now, what they did come out and say is that at the end of February, so in 2 weeks, the state CDC, CDPH will be reevaluating whether or not they're going to continue that mask mandate in schools or not. So we're just kind of waiting, take the wait and see approach on that, and then we'll go from there. But masking is still required in our schools at this time.
Andrew?
Good evening, everybody. I just wanted to take a second to thank Amy Hubbard, who's helping with our federal program monitoring audit, which is a big, giant red tape nightmare. So she's been working really hard, and wanted to thank her, and also wanted to thank our IT team, John Damone, Chris Murphy, and Garrett Hartman, who've been helping a lot with a lot of extra projects. And they've been working really hard, and I just wanted to kind of call them out and thank them.
Thank you. Janet?
Good evening. First of all, I would like to announce that we do have on February 23rd, our Supportive School Climate Committee at 7 o'clock that evening, and everybody is welcome to attend. I have moved the LCAP parent meeting that we had scheduled for the month of March, and I moved it back to April in hopes that we can do in person. And by then we'd be able to invite the parents in, because I think it would be so much more engaging. So I've moved that to April 21st, 5:30 to 7:45. Yesterday, we had a visual performing arts meeting with our consultant and our new principal. And we set up a visitation to go to Natomas Charter School on March 9th. And I wanted to give a shout out to the central staff that really led and designed the Hmong Day. They worked with the cultural center, and even when there wasn't a principal there for a while, they did a phenomenal job of pulling together and developing a well-organized, articulated day. They did Hmong, they learned a dance, they learned a ball thing, which is very important in their culture, a ball toss. And they learned to do some art, some embroidery that can tell the history and the story. And they learned some history on the country and why the immigration to the United States. So it was a great day, and the Hmong Center was with us the whole day, and they helped support us. But really a shout out, because the teachers really went above and beyond and did a great job of organizing that. And then I also wanted to give a shout out to our head nurse and the health clerks for their diligent work on all the extra time they've done on contract tracing. They have pulled together and have worked many hours and helped supported cover different schools to make sure that they had that covered. We are excited because we think we're over the hump, and they are getting a chance to actually catch up. So they're delighted for that, but that has been a long, hard haul for them. And I just wanted to recognize all of their hard work. And then, as Andrew mentioned, we have FPM coming up on March 21st to the 25th. Amy's done a great job of orchestrating it and getting the different categorical programs, all of the work submitted, and we have an online review. So I've not done an online review, so this will be an interesting one, but my guess is we do just like a regular FPM, where at the very end there'll be an exit meeting and we'll find out what kinds of things we may need to do for follow-up. And the last thing, oh, that was it. Sorry. So that's pretty much wraps up what's going on in curriculum.
Great, thank you. Kimberly.
As we've been focusing on behavior the past few months, I have made reference several times to the CBIIS program, which is a BCOE behavior supports program that we have been reaching out to. It actually stands for Collaborative Behavior Intervention and Inclusion Supports. And this was a program that started last year, and we used it a couple times last year. It was highly successful. And so we have really been utilizing it for students with disabilities who have very significant behavior challenges this year, but it is not that narrow. It's a more comprehensive program. And so for the board to understand more about that program and to have more in-depth knowledge, I have invited Christy Carr to come and share about that program today so that you will have more knowledge about that.
Wonderful. Thank you. Okay, at this time, the board will extend an invitation to interested parties who wish to speak on matters which are school related. For those attending remotely who wish to comment, use the raise your hand button to be called on to speak. Comments and questions may be emailed to backpack@ocesd.net. Please include your first and last name in your email. Comments and questions received will be read into the record and are addressed during the meeting. However, comments received without the sender's name will not be shared during the meeting. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes per person and 20 minutes per subject. Dr. Holtum, do we have any emails to read?
We do not.
I do not have any in my inbox.
Okay, and do we have any hands raised online?
We do not.
Okay, so I'll open it up to the room. Was there anyone that would like to make a public comment? All right, moving right along. We will now move on to presentations. the BCOE Collaborative Behavior Intervention and Inclusion Services, CBIIS.
Hi. Do I need to hold it the whole time?
No.
Okay. Thanks for all the technical instruction. I am not in technology at all. My name is Christy Carr, and I am a behavior specialist for BCOE. And just like in special ed, we need another acronym. So I created a program called CBIS. Thank you for introducing it. Collaborative Behavior Inclusion and Collaborative Behavior inclusion and support. Thank you, intervention and support. I get very excited about it. It's my baby. I created it last year. What I was finding is that we were going in to help teachers with behavioral supports for students, and especially in gen ed classes, they didn't have the same resources or understanding of the supports that we were introducing. So I'd write a plan and hand it to them, and then they'd look at me. And I was like, this isn't right. We need to do something more for kids. We need to do something more to build capacity within our staff. And so there was a sweet boy, and I wrote a plan for him. I knew exactly what he needed. He was a kiddo who was on the autism spectrum and really needed some evidence-based practices to be able to access his education. He's a brilliant child. He just couldn't access the information in his classroom. And the gen ed teacher, who's in a gen ed classroom in kindergarten, who was a phenomenal teacher and did all the amazing tier 1 and tier 2 supports, was not able to also provide the supports that I was offering her because she didn't have that background knowledge. So I just went to the BCOE administration. I said, hey, can I try this thing? And that thing was, can I coach and model the supports for that staff? And so from that was born CBIS. And the idea of it is to be able to provide those behavioral supports within the classroom in their least restrictive environment for kids with an IEP or without an IEP, and give them that opportunity to stay in that least restrictive environment using and utilizing the staff that's currently there, and building the capacity of that staff's understanding and awareness of those behavioral supports. And so our model started with one student and just myself, and a little bit of leniency from districts for me to go in there and actually be a teacher, which was my background as a special ed teacher for 17 years. And people were like, yeah, let's do that. So I went in there and was able to show this kiddo who was not able to access his center activities at all, maybe 0 to 10% is the data that showed. And then we put these supports into place, which were evidence-based practices for kids on the autism spectrum. And in 3 months, he was accessing 90 to 100% of those centers independently or utilizing the staff that was in there. It was really phenomenal to see. And what I loved the most was seeing that the staff understood that it could work. It wasn't, let's move this kiddo to another environment, to another class, to a more restrictive environment. It was, let's work together collaboratively on these behavior and supports to provide the student what he needs within the classroom that he deserves and should be in. He is now a first grader, and he has continued to use those supports and is he has a staff member that stays with him, but he's pretty independent in using those supports himself now. We've had many successes the same way. And what we've seen is that staff now are asking questions where you can tell that they're utilizing the supports they've already learned. So, hey, can I use this for this other kid? Yeah, that's the plan. So try this with that other kiddo. Try building your toolbox so you can utilize those same supports for kiddos that you're seeing the same behaviors from. Originally, we were looking at kiddos who had behaviors that had an IEP, but really, especially I think after the pandemic, we're seeing a lot of kiddos who don't have an IEP, who are still having those behavioral needs for support. And so being able to provide those and work with gen ed teachers has been pretty amazing. The collaboration piece, I think, is so huge. It's not, here's my kid and I'm passing it over to you, but let's work together to see what's working, what's not working, how we can change things and adapt things. Our teams are generally the teacher, admin, counselors on the campus, whoever on the campus who could actually support the kiddo. If the kid has a relationship with the custodian or really has interest in what the custodian's doing, we pull that custodian onto the team as well so that we can utilize whatever reinforcements and supports that we have. So really it's building that student's team, whether they have an IEP or not. It started with just me, and now we have 2 teachers under me. So I go in as a behavior specialist, do an observation, figure out the function of the behavior, create a plan, and then the teachers go in and model that intervention. And the beauty of that is they're special ed teachers who have years of experience. And so they can go in and try the plan and they're like, this didn't work. We need to tweak this, this, and this. Then we model that plan to whoever's working with the student. So we don't necessarily want to add staff. We want to use the existing staff in class. So the gen ed teacher, the aide that's already in there supporting, or if there's a sped ed aide in there, or in a sped ed class, if it's any of the staff that's working with that student. And then the teachers from our team, CBUS team, they coach the teachers doing the intervention. So it's really this modeling approach and then the coaching piece, which is so, so effective. It also builds this confidence in the staff that they can actually do what we're asking them to do. And we're not just saying, here's a list of things to do, please go do it. We work with a lot of districts and kids in both gen ed and sped ed, and we have seen some great successes. I think that moving forward, we're hoping that the team will grow and be able to reach more and more kids, but also we want staff to grow in themselves and build the capacity in themselves so that they can utilize all the instruction and things that we've taught them in the sports that we've shown them. I was just a little nervous. Thank you for introducing me. Any questions?
I just want to make a comment.
Yeah.
So first of all, thank you very much for supporting us. And I just want to share with the board is as we kind of continue to work through some of the behavior issues that we have, that we're identifying multiple means of support to bring in to support individual teachers, individual students, and that we continue to look at every avenue to improve our practices here in the district.
Sandra, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to express my appreciation and thanks for all these good work. This is universe changing. I really appreciate it. I'm very proud of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? All right. Thank you so much.
Thank
for
you
what
so
you're
much.
doing.
Thank you for
Appreciate it.
inviting me.
Okay. And we'll move on to the OCESD's local control and accountability plan.
Just want to let the board know that this is also better known as the LCAP. And this year, the state has asked us to do a mid-year report. And so that's what this report is referring to. Usually we just do this kind of annually, and they've asked us due to COVID and other things to do a mid-year report. So Janet is in the process of pulling up the plan, and we'll go ahead and turn the time over to her at this time.
So last spring, we had received extra money from the State Department, and it was around $20 million, and it was with ESSER funds. And it came in late after we were going through the LCAP process. So as a result, what they did with AB 130 during the summer, they decided that they were going to come up with the accountability system, that we would do a mid-year report for you. And we would then go through where we're at on the LCAP, our progress, and what we've been able to achieve. So in your packet, you do see a PowerPoint presentation that I had. And what I want to do is just highlight a couple things because it's pretty cumbersome when you look at it. And on the first page, when I do it, we had gone over the budget, and what we're showing is we had an extra 22 million from what we had been given in the spring, and we planned the LCAP to what we actually have. And that's that ESSER money. So then the question is, how did we spend the money? And the question also is, how did we go about in getting all the stakeholders involved? So we went with the stakeholders, used all the normal systems that we have. We talked to supportive school climate. We had parent meetings that we had done for the LCAP. And we, through negotiations, had discussions, board meetings had discussions. So from a broad array, you received application in the fall that Dr. Holton had completed for the ESSER funds. And so with those funds, then we went and implemented based on all the community input, and we've been able to input most of the project. In the PowerPoint, I went through all of the action items that we had on the LCAP. And with all of those action items, we're in progress for almost everything. We're on track. We've done what we said we we're going to do. We had very few items that are that will take a little extra work. Our parent meetings, we were a little delayed because of COVID, and we found last fall we just didn't get good parent feedback on virtual. But we do have, we talked about them, referred to them last board meeting. So we do have in-person meetings that will be coming up this spring. We have been able to pretty much be able to implement everything, maybe not at the speed that we wanted to, because certainly with COVID, some things got slowed down, but we have good progress. And what you see in the report is we are on track with everything. We've done our data, looked at our data. We're seeing that with our math, as we had predicted last year, it's a little depressed. We didn't get quite as far as we were hoping to make, so we have a little work to do there. And other than that, and in our language arts, we have a little work. Our professional development, we're continuing it, we're following it. We have about 2 or 3 more PD days to wrap up for this year. And we also were to talk about in the application, we also were to talk about our partners. And so for the different partners that we have is we have, we went and met with ELAC, we met with DLAC. We have met with the Cultural Hmong Center. We've talked to the African American Cultural Center. We've tried to include community members in addition to our members, our staff. And when we look at the concentration funds, some of the options that we did is we added 2 more educational therapists, which we talked about at the last board meeting because they help with our tier 3 behavior. We have a huge Chromebook replacement going on. We last year when we were in COVID, and we're continuing to have to do big replacements, we needed to do some infrastructure and get some routers and things like that to help pay for it. We created independent study teachers. We've grown that program, and we've also done Chromebook replacements, which I mentioned. And then on number 4, on our prompt 4, where it talks about the implementation, in addition, our nurses needed extra time, and we have sanitation. We had extra money for health and sanitation. We increased our sub rate. We bought furniture and other resources for our site so that we could house the kids last year when we were really trying to separate them. And we did a lot of SEL training in order to help support our kids when they came back this year. So with that, I know you have read the report, the PowerPoint before the meeting. So I just wanted to highlight some items in it and then really ask if you had any questions.
Board members, does anyone have any questions or comments?
Mm-hmm.
Just this year, or is that going to be every year ongoing, a mid-year report?
The implication that we had from the county office is they said it would be just for this year.
Okay.
And
It's
it was only because the money came in
Mhm.
and
Then you're-
it was a new
Yeah.
accountability.
It's actually kind of nice to see where how much there is left, how much has spent, sort of as ongoing
Mhm.
instead of it just one large sum at the end. But it's nice to see it this way. Thank
Well,
you.
we could easily do a mid-year report without submitting it to the state and just kind of a state of where we at with our money and our data and progress. We can certainly do that.
Thank you for providing it.
Uh-huh.
It's nice to see. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments from the board? Glad to hear everything's on track, even if maybe a little slowed down, it's still on track
for the year. So thank you.
Mhm.
All right, and we will move on to the next item. That's Ishii Hills Student Behavior and Discipline Plan.
Okay, at our prior board meeting, concerns surfaced regarding behavior. At that meeting, the comments identified concerns at issue. So very quickly, staff and students were provided a survey so that we could gather information on a broader perspective. From there, Principal Henderson met with their staff and they went to work. And they're here tonight to share their progress and what they've been able to accomplish.
There it is. Hi, how are you doing? I wish I could have asked the person who came and presented because I want to know if she goes to middle schools. Sounded like, yeah, so that's
Oh, yes, all of your.
perfect.
Multiple times.
Well, we were looking at each other going, oh, I'm calling her. Because we could definitely use some help always. So you got the PowerPoint and you saw the data from the beginning of the year to the 30th that compared all the years prior to us. And you could see that I definitely am still suspending. And you could see my in-house suspensions have risen. And I want you to let you know that because we decided that with the reentry plans we have to do, teachers need time to see it, own it, and know what they're going to do with the kids as they come back from suspension. So we have what we call the recovery suspension. So they, instead of going out 5 days, they go out 4, they come back 1 day, they get support from our wonderful counselor. This is Raylene Robinson and the student center, and they catch up on stuff they've missed. They go through what they've done. They get some guided instruction on behavior, and then they reenter back into the classroom and they feel a lot more successful. And they don't feel like they're so left out because they used to suspend, come back, and they were lost. So it's been really successful. Our kids have not enjoyed it because sitting home is much more fun. So you could see, hold on, it's on my phone. Hang on a minute. So we are using disciplinary action along with a lot of intervention. The quarterly report that I gave out to the public, we did 378 interventions in this room with our team, along with the disciplinary action. So I don't know if you had any particular questions about what we've done. I could read through some of the things that we have worked on based on data. And my teachers have worked very hard and always willing to come together. We came together during Christmas vacation, about, I don't know, 6 of us, and sat at the table with big, huge drawing boards and looked at data and said, what are we going to do to support our kids? What are we going to do to support all of our kids? And one of the main things that we came up with is we have what's called the Academy for Success. And it has a criteria for entering and a criteria for exiting. And we have a teacher who oversees those kids. And they are given instruction from the teachers and guided by this teacher through the day. And they have to earn back going back into the classroom, but it is really an intensive intervention for kids who are at failure. And since then, I just had a PBIS meeting yesterday. The teacher said their classrooms are a lot more calmer. Just removing 7 kids was what it was. So that was exciting. So that was a little information that I got yesterday at our PBS meeting. So I'm going to go back to our PowerPoint. So what have we done to correct?
So Renee, can I
Yes.
just intervene
Please.
for 1 second?
Yeah.
So just to give you a better sense of what that looks like.
Yeah.
So they have a teacher specialist on their campus, and some of the data and some of the things that we're seeing is that just a few kids can make a huge difference on a campus and in a classroom,
Mhm.
because so much time and effort is put into some of that negative behavior that it takes away from the general teaching that's in the classroom.
Mhm.
And we also are looking for ways to support kids and to let them know that there are other consequences if you're not going to be in line with what needs to happen in the classroom. So they're now pulling those kids out, working with them in a small group with a teacher, ensuring that they're still getting their education, but also allowing those classrooms that are now without those students to be more productive. Now, the hope is, just like Renee was sharing, is that those kids will then go through a process and then be able to go back into the mainstream of the campus. But if they can't handle it, they will be pulled back out, because we have to look at the good of the whole, but we also have to look at the individual student to give them ways to, you know, have opportunity to grow and get better and kind of learn from some of the things that they're doing.
So we have group counseling for them. It is part of the process. So parents have to agree, and they have group therapy with art. We do different things with them that they need. These kids need support, and the goal is that they slowly show improvement, and we slowly put them back into traditional classrooms on the classrooms that they were successful with, and then slowly get them all the way back in. It's just new. It's the birth of the program for us at school. We've been in it for, I think, 3 weeks. And so far, a few of the kids are like, they feel better. And a few of the kids are still struggling. But I went to visit a classroom of one of the children that we have now. And the classroom was completely a different classroom. So it was nice to see that as I was observing. Some of the things that we've done, we did the student and staff survey that you saw, and we learned some information about our kiddos that we needed to hear. And we're making steps to, have more fun on campus, and we, do more celebrations and give them back what they lost in the pandemic when we had to stay apart. We have a discipline. We met as a discipline planning committee. We presented to the staff for feedback. We've met as tier 3 for the academy and how kids get in and out. And things that we're doing next, we are now, so we've stopped having fights, which was a big thing when we got back. Out of the blue, we'd have these fights. Now we're just dealing with silliness of middle schoolers. It's basically the things I was dealing with before. And so one of the things we're tackling now is language. So now we have to do the safety plan on language, and we're going to have tiered support on that because, middle school, they love their language. So that's one of the things we're addressing. We're going to readdress our behavior matrix that we created to see if we need to adjust it for the current state of our students and to support the teachers in the classroom. We are going to do a consistent behavior matrix between the 2 schools. We're looking at combining Central and Ishii monthly PBS meetings to try to make sure that we're consistent between the 2 schools because we're different and we want to come back together. So I'm excited about that. Janet is going to help me do a guiding discipline principles as an administrator. So it's like, this thing happens, these 3 things can happen, this happens, these 3, and it's very clear for my teachers what I do in my room. Because sometimes it's like, it's a hidden thing. What does she do when she disciplines? I do share it with the teachers. They do get information on emails, and I do support them so they know, but they don't have time to go through all that. So we're going to have something they can just go to and see. And Janet, as a principal, had done that. So she said we should try it. And I like it. So I'm excited. We are increasing the uses of best practices through our training with Jessica. And we're going to start working on the cycle, which we did today is the cycle of continuous improvement. And I didn't know if there's anything on here that you had questions with that you didn't understand or you wanted more information on, because I don't know what my time is.
10 minutes.
Am I there?
So you're there, but
I'm there.
But now we can open up the time for.
So I'm done. Anything I can enlighten you on or give you information on?
What is a reward ticket?
Okay, so PBIS has a system of rewards that is basically a tier 1 support. And so reward tickets are that we have like green CSI tickets, we call them, because CSI are our PBIS rules, school-wide rules, and we have them in every area of the school. And so we have an online store that we created through the pandemic. Kids get a stamp from teachers for doing great things in class, being good students, for turning things in, and then they can go shopping at the store and it's delivered to them. It's all online. Then we have golden tickets, we call them, that my support staff give out for catching kids doing the right thing. And on Fridays, they get treats. We do drawings and they get treats that they take and eat. And we just had a 30-day challenge for no fights, and every grade level made it. And so we brought trucks out and the kids got to choose a truck to go to. And it was fun to see them smiling and enjoying something they had earned. So we started that back up again today. We're on another 30 days with no fights, and we're going to figure out what we're going to do next to support them and give them. So now that they've had that, they want it again.
So when she says brings out trucks, she means like vendors.
Vendors,
like
food trucks, yeah.
Yeah.
So we brought 3 out.
Not like monster
We brought the
trucks.
big
like
monster
Stray
trucks. That
Burgers.
may be an idea, though. I'm not.
Do you have a plan to resurvey at the end of the school year?
We actually, Janet and I were talking, and for my own personal growth as administrator and a growth as a staff, I would like to resurvey the staff and the students at the exit of the year to see where we're at. Because I could say, hey, things are better, the climate feels good, but you don't really know until you have tangible data.
Yeah.
So we're going to take probably the same survey and see where we're at as a group. And we work very hard together. I have great teachers. By the way, they're amazing. And we want to take that into, because we'll have another planning session over the break. We always meet before school starts and replan what we're doing, look at the exit of data, and then re-enter with different ideas. And this year, we didn't know what we were coming into. We had no idea.
I would really be interested to hear what the next plan would be moving forward based on your student answers to their questions and your staff's concerns and
Yeah.
recommendations for things I like about school, friends, lunch, the clubs, what could be better at school coming from a middle schooler, time spent in the cafeteria? Is that
Oh.
is that like a hangout? Or is that like
No. They don't want to stay in the cafeteria.
they want to be let out?
Yeah, and we already took care of that, by the way. Janet came and watched and said, I have an idea for you. So we put it into place and we were like, wow, just another perspective changed up kids exiting and entering
Yeah.
so that they have less time. If they're sitting there and they're done, they have more time to get out and go play, because we don't have a lot of time and they need more time unstructured time to play. So that was what they meant by that.
Yeah. So, and then the last thing, just I would be interested to hear the family accountability, the suggestion that staff has brought forward with family accountability.
So we work on that daily. I'm probably the only principal that's made like over 100 something house calls to get to know families, because I live in town and that's how I do it. We are looking, and it's not set yet, but we're looking into becoming an AVID school, and AVID school actually has an accountability program built into theirs now to get families involved in getting families to understand education is important, getting their kids ready for college, career. And AVID is basically, it's a very rigorous program to get kids ready for their future. And I was already trained in it as a district administrator. I brought that with me. I don't have to get trained again. No more cost for me. And so we're looking at that. I'm going to propose that to Janet tomorrow. I've already done the background, and they now have a component for that, because that's one of the biggest things that's missing in schools. How do we get families involved? How do we get families to get the training they need? And how do we get families to become part of the process?
Yeah. Are you connecting the behavior issues at school with the students and the families together as well? Because it's,
Right.
it's a whole unit. And
It is
the
a
only
whole
way that
unit.
change is ever going to be made is with everybody
And
involved.
it's one of the toughest things we cross.
Sure.
It
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
I do know that we are planning to do something, and we're still looking into it. Janet and I have been talking about bringing in a person I know who does Love and Logic, and looking across the district at our kiddos that have had lots of behavior issues and inviting them in to train with her in person before the school year starts, and then giving them some tools to take to the home and making sure that teachers understand what we're working on so that we can build that bridge that we're missing. I mean, that's a huge.
Yeah, I think actually they tried that this year virtually, but it didn't go.
I tried,
well.
and
As
they
soon as
didn't
we
do
knew we
it.
had some behavior issues we really wanted to address.
Yeah.
So they tried it, but it wasn't. So we're hoping
Yeah, I
that
sent
if
it
we
out.
do it in the summer, we could do in person.
And have a baby, daycare or what, and food.
So, and I haven't shared this with the board yet, the whole AVID concept.
I
but,
know, it's just idea.
And I'm glad you introduced it because Central now has the VAPA, or the Visual and Performing Arts program. And so Renee and some of her staff came to me and said, what about us? Hello, we're important too. And I said, yes, absolutely. Okay, I'm getting to you right now. And so, so I've been working with Renee, and she'll be working with Janet, and moving forward with this concept. And there'll be a lot more information to follow.
Yeah.
But we want to be able to highlight our middle schools for different programs so that kids will have choices when they leave our elementary schools.
Could somebody please just
yes.
share what is ADVID? That'd be nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's not on the, sure. So AVID is advancement via individual determination. And what it does is it gives kids the skills organization, of note taking, rigor, like reading to learn and not learning to read, how to do close text reads, how to get them in collaborative groups. There's this whole unit on collaborative groupings, and get 25% of the teacher talk, 75% of the students working together to learn from each other. And then we would have an AVID elective for the kids that just need to have that time to learn how to study, how to build that capacity. And those kids stay in that program through the year. It's sort of like what we used to call the bubble kids. One little thing can make a huge difference for the rest of their life. One of the things we notice as the kids come to us, they don't talk college, they don't talk career, they don't even know they have that choice. So we want to build that capacity in 6th grade and have, like, in AVID, there's a college day, a career day, and we study universities. We have banners up. Every teacher will wear their school, and we talk about their future differently. And the rigor in AVID, and it's not anything my teachers aren't doing, it just elevates their own learning. And so we go to a summer institute in each of the learning communities, whether it be science, ELA, they go in and learn how to use these strategies in their domain, and then they bring it back. And so we have a consistent way of teaching kids and a consistent vocabulary. And if we nail this, which I want to, is getting the kids to have self-efficacy and self-determination to have a goal setting too. We will have to have Stanford be a feeder school eventually. Maybe we start with a couple grade levels, 4 or 5. We move on down, because kindergartners can learn how to take notes, can learn how to read the text. It's all there.
I'm sorry for interrupting you.
Essentially, yeah.
But if you're not doing that now, then what are you doing? I mean, because isn't that what you just described school to me? I mean, so maybe I don't understand completely, but and it very well could be that. But to me, what you just described is what you should be doing. So and what is special about ADVID or whatever it is? Because taking notes, learning how to read, reading to learn, all of that, that sounds like school.
So the main crux of AVID is that it takes families that have never had a student go to college, and it helps them to develop the skills, the strategies, and the understanding of what it takes to go to college. And it builds that in, and it helps them create this.
So this isn't everyone. This is a group of children that are, I don't know how to describe it without being derogatory. I mean, disadvantaged or underperforming or something to that effect. Is that, or are we talking, we're going to do this for everybody?
First generation. Well, it's for everyone. I mean, every teacher gets a strategy. And what I like, so when I had an AVID school, we would do walkthroughs on looking at the strategy the teachers are using that they learn, and it increases their learning capacity to be able to do collaborative work in their classroom, understanding structures. It's basically, every teacher gets to the point where I need to learn again. And this is an opportunity for my teachers to get better at what they're doing and have a consistent way of teaching the kids across from 6 to 8.
Well, I'm gonna say I'm still confused. So
Could we have
I
you
am
come
looking
back?
forward to learning a lot more about this,
It
because I'm
definitely-
sure it's just.
Yeah, I
just
wasn't
not
prepared to
connecting.
just, and when
Sure.
we do, I will bring a whole PowerPoint presentation to you
Wonderful.
to show you what it consists of.
And I apologize for bird walking.
Yeah, I'm
there.
sorry.
I just wanted to let the board know that we are actively looking for additional means to support our schools and give kids within our community multiple means to either go to a VAPA or an AVID, depending on their need, depending on some of the background supports that we want to give them. And this is just in its infancy. And so I just wanted to give you an idea that we're actively working and trying to improve our schools, and we'll bring back more information.
Thank you,
And please
Spencer.
don't misconstrue my comments. I just don't understand. I mean, I want to understand.
So again, I'm Kristen Wilson Young. 20 years into this, it's a whole new. Education is,
It's new.
it's new.
Education's new.
The kids are
Please come to the school. Like just come see what it is. Obviously reaching the kid in a different way. There are so many other variables now in their life with the social media, with everything that's out there that's pulling them every way but school, every way but what is your vision? My vision is to be a TikTok star.
Yeah.
That's my vision. I'm going to make 1 million.
Yeah.
Going to make 5
Gonna be a
million.
YouTuber.
I'm going to be, that's what I'm going to go I mean, which are great. Okay, fine. Wonderful. How are you going to get there? I don't know. Just going to do it. Like they don't know how to critically think about how am I going to get to my goal? I'm just going to get to my goal because YouTubers are stars overnight, right? Isn't that right? Overnight, boom, you're a success. You're making millions. And that's what they think they're going to be. Or the complete opposite. Every day I'm told I can't do it when I go home. We have one student whose parent, you're not worth the breath I breathe. These are the things they hear, you know? And so it is so different. And I really want all of you, just spend an hour on our campus. I'd love for you to come to my classroom, you know, and I mean, I wish it wasn't different, but it is different. And we just want answers. We just want help. We want some new strategies to reach these kids. You know, I'm not coming out of the credential program with a whole host of, so I'm excited if it does go through, and if it doesn't, we'll try something else, right? So
It's a 3-year.
I think we
So-
have to try.
So in getting back to discipline,
Thank you.
what I would like
Sidebar.
to say is the staff did work really together very well. They came together over winter break and they have been working at trying to solve some of the problems. They don't have them all solved, but they are working towards trying to figure out how to make that campus more
Safe
safe,
and educational.
more orderly. Yeah. So
Focus.
thank you very much.
Yeah. And
For sharing your progress. It's exciting to see. It's exciting to hear your enthusiasm
yeah,
and your optimism for where this is going to take you, and that you've already seen some successes in the
We
short
have.
amount of time that
Yeah.
you've implemented these new strategies. And it's exciting to hear. So thank you for sharing it with the board and the public. And we look forward to hearing more about that in the future.
I look forward to hearing something, you know, I like your 30-day plan for the last 30 days. Where are we at? Next 30 days?
Yeah, we do
Where
that
are we at now?
every-
Where are we
yeah.
at now?
we have a full staff meeting around PBIS and discipline. So everyone has a voice. I appreciate your time.
All right, we'll now move on to public comments on action items. The board will extend an invitation to interested parties who wish to speak on items that are listed on the agenda. For those who are attending remotely or wish to comment, use the raise your hand button to be called on to speak. Comments may also be emailed to backpack@ocesd.net. Please include your first and last name in your email. Comments received that pertain to items on the agenda will be read into the record during this time. However, comments received without the sender's name will not be read. The Brown Act does not allow the governing board to discuss or take action on any item that is not on the posted agenda. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes per person and 20 minutes per subject. Do we have any emails to read?
We do not.
Okay. And do we have any hands raised online?
We do not.
Okay. Have any members in the audience who'd like to speak? Please come forward.
Well, I'm gonna ask about action 9, but I'll wait because you guys might have some questions.
So I would say, come on up, Rhonda, and ask your question or make your statement. Oh, is it? I'm sorry.
Business.
It's new business. So at that time you can bring that up. Okay, sorry about that, Rhonda. Regarding the consent agenda, under our personnel recommendations, I've invited Lauren Albert, who is on our agenda, and we'd like to introduce her pending board approval as our next principal at Central Middle School. So I'd just like Lauren to come up and introduce herself and give just a little bit about her background.
I was on. Okay, hi, I'm Lauren Albert, and I was a teacher for 17 years, mostly junior high, a little bit of high school, and some elementary. I love junior high, so this is a really exciting opportunity for me. I also have an interest in the arts, which is a perfect fit for what Central is rolling out right now. Most recently, I've been the superintendent and principal, and for 3 of my 4 years there, also the kinder teacher in the mornings. And so I actually was like a little nervous coming in with a lot of unfamiliar faces until Janet started talking about the LCAP, and I was right at home because that's actually my board meetings tomorrow, and I present that PowerPoint that we created for our board meeting for our mid-year review. And so I'm pretty familiar with how the district runs and with board meetings, and that's the stuff I get to leave behind and let you guys do. So I'm super excited about this opportunity to work with our kiddos in Oroville. I live here in town. I have 3 students, 2 go to Oroville City Elementary and 1 is at the high school. Do you have any questions?
Welcome.
Thank you.
And just to clarify, she's the last 3.5, 4 years, she's been in Bangor as the principal superintendent there.
Yes.
And I recruited her out of there because I knew that she loved the arts. And she's going to be a tremendous asset to our district. She brings a great deal of experience, both as a teacher and an administrator. And so thank you, Lauren, for showing up tonight.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so now we'll move on to the consent agenda.
Madam President, I respectfully request to pull items G and H.
Okay, so items G and H will be pulled from the consent agenda and handled separately. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda with items G and H removed.
Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Abstain? Consent agenda passes.
Madam President, I pulled items G and H, and I'll just start with G.
I'm going to recuse myself
Yes,
and
ma'am.
abstain from this.
Oh, excuse me. Before we do that, because we have one member that's online, we need to do a roll call vote for consent agenda.
Sorry, you're right. Okay, so we will do a roll call vote on approving the consent agenda. Bill,
Yes.
Lisa,
Yes.
Jessica,
Yes.
Sandra,
Aye.
and I'm an aye, so approved. Okay, and I will excuse myself for G and H. Okay.
Dr. Holtum, I have no questions regarding either item. I just knew it was a conflict for our president.
Okay, so now we'd like to put those back on so that we can ratify
I'll
them.
make a motion that the board approve item G and item H.
Okay,
Second.
and Sandra, if you could call for the roll call as the vice president.
Jessica, how do you vote?
Yes.
Lisa, how do you vote?
Yes.
Bill, how do you vote?
Yes.
I vote aye. The motion carries.
Thank you. I will ask our board president to come back in.
Okay, so we will move on to new business. Item A, adopt resolution 21-2210, intent to dismiss classified employees. Oh, okay. If you have a comment on item number 9, you're welcome to come forward.
Hi, I'm Rhonda. So my question on item number 9, I know that we're in the talks about it was going to transition over because of Oroville High taking over transportation. I was just curious as to why it went to layoff or why you're proposing layoff.
So as we met with CSEA regarding this issue, it was their interest that layoff be used in this case. One of the things that's a extenuating circumstance in this particular item is typically in the past, it's a 45-day window for laying off CSEA staff.
Mhm.
The laws have changed and now it's the same window as certificated staff.
Mhm.
So we had to go ahead with the layoff now for next year. And the reason that CSEA was interested in going through the layoff process was if any employees elected to not move to the high school, they would be protected in the layoff process in the contract,
Okay.
because there's a process in place for a layoff, where if that didn't happen, there isn't anything written as to how to deal with that situation. So we agreed with them and said, okay, we'll put it on. Our intent is not to lay any of these people off. The intent is to transfer the program to the high school, but to protect your rights as a CSEA employee under the contract, that's this step. And unfortunately, in my perspective, unfortunately, because of the new timeline, we had to make this step before it could even come to an agreement with the high school, because of the very, very long timeline that we're now given for classified layoff.
That's kind of what's my question. I understand the layoff and how it would protect us and everything. I just hate to see now, will we still get, the offers and stuff like that?
Right.
I mean,
So-
that's what's kind of
This
scary.
isn't going to change that. And we've been working really hard, and CSEA has been working very hard, and your CSEA state representative, who sits at the table on our CSEA and the CSEA at the high school, has been working very hard to get all these positions and people placed at the high school in similar jobs with their, you're going to have, we talked about this, the pay is going to be equivalent. So this is just a step that they felt would be helpful in the case of something going wrong for somebody. Though I think it's sounding more and more, in my opinion, it's sounding more and more like there's going to be lots of opportunities at the high school.
Yeah, I didn't know if this is the forum to bring this, but because one of the questions would be is if we're laid off, like I was part of the county that came over
Mhm.
years ago, and we kept everything, the seniority, all that with it as a group, because we weren't laid off at the time. We
Right.
came over.
So you're not going to be laid off if you go to the high school. You're going to be transferring.
Right, but
So
we're going to be
and
laid
the
off.
layoff will be rescinded, right? For the individuals, because you're not going to bump down into a different position. So it won't change your status by doing this.
Alright.
Another part of the layoff is there is one employee that is being reduced. That's the maintenance clerk, because of the loss of the work. There's a half an hour being reduced from that position. So that was the original layoff was for that only. And we're helping her find a different things to do in the district. But then, like I said, it was the CSEA felt it was in everybody's best interest to go through this in case there was somebody who fell through the cracks in this process.
Okay.
But it's not there to be heavy-handed or to change the process. It's still exactly.
So the intent of the district is still there to.
It's still the agreement that we have with the high school and CSEA, and what everybody's fighting for is to make sure that everybody stays whole and solid and has a good landing at the high school.
Okay.
That hasn't changed at all. So this is just, you hear layoff and it's a freaky word, but like I said, it's really there to, in the contract, protect you,
Yeah.
right? Because if you're not in the contract, then what happens if, let's say, one of you stays and now you have to bump, but there is no bumping unless I have layoff,
Gotcha.
right? I can't do that part. So that's why it was recommended that we do that. So,
All right, thanks for clarification.
sure.
Okay. Anything else on that item? Do we need to vote on that then? Is that correct?
We need a motion first and
Yeah.
then.
Is there a motion to approve the resolution of intention to dismiss classified employees?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Bill, how do you vote?
Yes.
Lisa?
Yes.
Jessica?
Yes.
Sandra?
Aye.
I'm aye. Motion carries. Move on to B, review proposed 22-23 school calendar options.
Thank you, Madam President. So last meeting, we discussed our multiple calendar options. This is kind of a two-step process tonight that I'd like to go through with the board. First of all, there was a question raised. The high school district, which we share transportation with, proposed that next year's calendar is very similar to this year's calendar, where instead of taking an entire week off for President's Week, we just have the Friday and Monday like we do this year. We have a number of employees and individuals who would like to have that entire week off, and then which would then force us to go 4 days longer in our school year. The problem with that, when we don't follow the high school's calendar and we do a whole week's off, is that their bus drivers end their contract with the high school district at the end of their calendar year. We would then have to pay an additional 4 days for transportation, because we would go an additional 4 days into, additional 3 or 4 days into the summer. We met with the high school district. They said that we could do that, but it also comes at a cost, because those are extra days for their employees to work. We would pay somewhere between $4,000 and $5,000 a day for transportation, which for the district would be an additional between $15,000 and $20,000 to go to a President's Week entire week off. So that is the difference between option A and B. The second piece to this conversation is, during our last board meeting, we talked about keeping Christmas recess, and then looking at changing the name of Easter to spring break. And so we actually have kind of two pieces to the calendar. And so I'd like to refer back to the board for discussion.
Does anyone have any comments, questions?
On minimum days, are we charged a full day for busing?
That's part of our contract. And so we pay the same rate when we do the minimum
Or the
days,
bell schedule?
because those bus drivers are already working those days. And so the reason why we're charged the additional cost is because they are now working additional days outside their contract. And so we have to pay for those days outside their
3
contract.
additional days?
3
And-
additional days.
And your estimate for that?
Is it 4? It's 4 additional days.
It's 4 additional days, so I have down June 6th, 7th, and 8th as the days.
5th through
Oh,
8th.
I'm sorry, this is a Monday through Friday calendar, not a
Yeah.
Sunday. to
Yeah,
Saturday.
that can be a little deceiving.
Missed the Monday.
Any other comments, questions? I know how important this is for, in talking with some staff members and teachers, some classified employees, that February is one of the hardest months of the school year, that just everybody is exhausted. And that's the time to have an extra break. So for the kids, for the teachers, for the whole staff, everyone needs that break. But I am concerned about all the extra money, that's $15,000, $20,000 to give them that break. You know, how do we put a dollar amount on their exhaustion and needing that extra time? I don't know.
Is there any possibility that this can be pushed out a year and a different schedule be negotiated with the high school so that we better coincide with that to allow for the week? Are they amenable to that at all?
So we haven't talked to them about looking at them going back to what we've had for years and years, but we certainly can have that conversation. We just haven't had that conversation yet. I know that they have some very specific reasons for doing so. Most of it has to do with their master schedule. their semesters when they end and when they begin, because that's a really important part. And I know the number of days that they can have in the first semester versus the second semester. So there's a lot of pieces that go into that, but we know it's doable because, they've done it in the past.
I don't know, I agree that, we get burnout and teachers get burnout, and I mean, let's take a nice little break and then heavy hit it for March, which has no days off. And into the first week of April, and just hearing the staff, I think the last couple of years have been more exhausting. But I'm in support of bringing it back. But for the reason of, experiencing burnout with our teachers, I don't want that to happen, and with our kids.
Would we be able to find this in the budget if we chose to do it?
If it became, if the board decides that this is a priority, then it's a priority.
So now every year that we want to do this, would we have to pay the $15,000 to $20,000 every year?
Unless we're able to get the high school to change their main calendar, yes, that would be the case. So if nothing else changes, it would be 15 to 20 grand a year, every year, to have the February break, and to add those 4 days on to the end of the school year.
I think I'm also in support of it. I mean, I know teachers do get burnt out. Kids are getting burnt out. There's so much stuff going on. I think that little bit of break will also help with the behavioral issues at school. And it's true, they do need a break. I know Marysville right now, my grandkids are all off of school for the whole week. And that's a nice little break that they're taking. So I do think because of things that we've been going through, the teachers do need that break, and we'll see the behavioral issues just slow down a little bit.
It would be kind of nice to hear them, like, numbers. What do the teachers want?
Sandra, your hand's up.
How do I phrase this? So where would the money be coming from, and what would we have to cut in order to use the money?
As far as where the money would come from, we would have to look at we always look at restricted funding sources before we look at our general fund. So we would have to exhaust looking at all of the different categorical funds that we have to see if any of those would be appropriate and give appropriate, you have this break, give an appropriate justification to use as categorical funds. So that might bump something else out of a categorical program. So it's hard to say exactly what, if I bump this in, what will get bumped out. It might not be the case that anything is bumped out, but something that you were going to build or something you were going to fund won't get funded. So it's still a dollar spent either way, any way you cut it. But we would try really hard to use our more restricted money for something like this if at all possible.
My second question is, what is to say, and I'm knocking on wood here, that next year is going to be nearly as bad as this year, pandemic wise or environmental catastrophe wise or any otherwise?
Well, we know that's at this point in time really difficult to say. But what we do know is that we can't predict at this point in time if we're going to continue to have those issues. But what I will share with you is that we know that education right now in the here and now is difficult, and we know a lot of districts are starting earlier or ending later so that they can have more breaks throughout the year.
Right, but at the same time, you're also having a lot of issues with kids not being in the classroom and having that time spent learning. And here we are asking for more time of kids out of the classroom.
But the time is made up at the end of the year, so it's not less days in the classroom.
And then actually kind of opposite of what I said earlier, based on some of the comments that the staff made from Ishi, is returning to the classroom, for example, after a suspension is kind of a challenge, right? So like behaviorally or academically, maybe, you know, they're gone and now they're coming back again. We have to readjust again. So I'm kind of going on both of those things.
With respect, it's not quite the same thing.
Right.
You're going into a room where kids have been, and our kids are all going out. And we're coming back. I see the point you guys are making about lots. Yeah.
Any other comments, questions from the board? Is there a motion to approve either calendar A or B and include whether we use the term spring break or Easter recess?
Did we want to allow Rhonda?
I'm sorry.
Sorry, I just, from a parent perspective, and I know last time this was brought up.
Rhonda, why don't you come up so people, so everybody can hear?
Microphone.
Yes.
No. There you go.
Okay, from the parent perspective, from the last time all this was going on from the high school, what their concerns were is their ADA is less when we're off, because a lot of the families have the older sibling stay home with the younger sibling. So that was, you know, when we had all these discussions before, that was one of their concerns as well. Just food for thought.
I'd definitely like to encourage having a discussion with the high school district to look at that for a future year.
Well,
to coordinate it.
And Madam President, this is, no action is necessary tonight because the board asked me to come back
Great.
with additional information, which I did. And so we'll bring this back next month
Great.
and then as an action item.
Great. All right, so we will move on to number 10, business and finance, adopt resolution 21-2209, Cal Shape number 3.
So items A and B are both the same grant. If you recall, a few board meetings back, we had a couple of plumbing Cal-shaped grants where we were doing new urinals and toilets. This is the heating and air conditioning system Cal-shaped grant, and you're all going to have to sign it. Remember, I think you have to sign in blood, but they wanted everybody to sign it. But this is about $500,000 that's going to go towards maintenance, inspection, monitoring, and filtration on our current HVAC systems throughout the district, not including Sierra del Oro because it's not eligible because it's preschool for this particular grant. Again, this is something that we worked with a consultant on to get it all dialed in. It's a very, for what appears to be a turnkey type of grant where they already are telling you what you're doing. It's been an extremely difficult grant, extremely lots and lots of little strings. And in fact, Spencer today had to sign a form that they wanted the updated version. We sent in the wrong version because ours was not the revision from February 2022. So this is the kind of exciting thing you get from the Department of Energy. So again, this is a great grant for us. It's only going to help improve our HVAC systems as we continue to go through it and replace them. The hope is that there will be a part 2 of this particular grant from the state that will include some replacement as well, as opposed to just the assessment and maintenance on these units. But again, a wonderful grant, desperately needed. We desperately needed this grant for many years. So I think it's going to be a very helpful, and it's also going to include some new carbon monoxide detection in the classrooms as well.
Any comments or questions from the board? Is there a motion to approve, to adopt resolution 21-2209?
So moved.
Second,
I second.
Okay, Bill, how do you vote?
Yes.
Lisa.
Yes.
Jessica?
Yes.
Sandra?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Motion carries.
So B is the same thing. It's just the second part.
Okay, is there a motion to approve B?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, Bill, how do you vote?
Yes.
Lisa?
Yes.
Jessica?
Yes.
Sandra?
Aye.
I vote aye. Motion carries. Okay. Item C, review 2021 Butte School Self-Funded Program, JPA Wildfire Hazard and Risk Assessment at Ishii Hills.
The Butte Schools Self-Funded Programs is our insurance carrier for a wide variety of insurances. It's a JPA where all the schools in the county work together to have pooled insurance. After the Bear Fire, it became apparent that we needed to really investigate the wildfire readiness of our school sites. Our district lost an entire school site in the Bear Fire. And so after doing some review, they identified Ishii Hills Middle School as a school of risk for wildfire. As a district, we identified Ishii Hills and Ophir Elementary as schools with wildfire contingency problems. And we've already done a lot of work at Ophir. We were waiting for this report to come out before we started working on Ishii. This is a very thorough and in-depth report with lots and lots of recommendations. And I will say they even exceed the recommendations.
Oh, shit. Turn it off. There we go. It's a silver alert. I believe that means a missing elderly person.
Terrible.
Well, I'm glad to hear our emergency alert system is working.
I thought you guys are tired of hearing from me. It's fine. So the recommendations in here are more stringent than the ones that CDF had given us. They're talking about things like removing bushes and things, so from away from the buildings. It's a very, very in-depth, assessment. The sort of the shiny side of the coin is that we've been working with the Butte County Office of Ed, Jerry Height, who's been helping us put in for some Cal OES funds to pay for this, and some additional things that we would like to see for fire safety, including potentially making the gym with some upgrades, the gym at Ishii Hills Middle School, a shelter-in-place shelter, but it's going to require some specific wildfire safety upgrades. Any way you cut it, we have to get more serious about the wilderness area on Ishii Hills. And it's going to have to get cleaned up. And if you look around, anywhere around there on Olive Highway, you can see they're pushing the trees way back away from the road. Those are things that we need to be doing. I'm excited for the opportunity to work with Cal OES and have them pay for it. But we're also working with any other local agencies that can help, like the Butte Fire Council, and CDF as well. So I got this report, and I know you guys like to see any reports that we get. So I don't know that I can answer any questions you have about the report in any kind of great length, but it's pretty exhaustive in my opinion. They've gone through and looked at the grading size on the wooden bathroom and said, well, the great little holes are, a eighth of an inch too big. They should be an eighth of an inch smaller. So it's very detailed. And when they're talking about that sort of thing, there's a certain size of vent that prevents ash from being sucked into your building during a fire. So we're looking at all those things, and our intention is to do most of what's in here. I'm not sure about the shrubbery piece, but it's entirely possible that we find an alternative to go where the shrubberies are at Ishii.
Madam President, this is just a information item. So there's no action necessary on this.
Okay. Any questions, comments from the board? All right, thank you, Andrew, for sharing. We'll move on to curriculum and instruction. Item A, approve 2021 school accountability report cards, SARCs.
Annually, we prepare SARCs based on what the state requires. A lot of the data in there is generated actually from the State Department. Some of it's generated from our schools and offices. And so tonight we're asking that you approve the SARCs.
Okay, does the board have any questions, comments on the SARCs? Okay, is there a motion to approve the SARCs? Is there a second? Okay. Bill, how do you vote?
Yes.
Lisa, how do you vote?
Yes.
Jessica?
Yes.
Sandra?
Aye.
But aye, motion carries. That concludes our meeting. Our meeting is adjourned at 7:15.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.